course, Egyptian President Abdel-Fattah el-Sisi is on his first official visit to Washington, where he'll be meeting U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, the meeting is seen as a significant step in the rehabilitation of U.S.-Egypt ties. The Egyptian president was largely kept out of Obama's White House, as Egypt in turn suspected the U.S. of supporting the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood. Now, the Trump presidency is expected to introduce warm relations, as the two leaders are reported to have good chemistry. They first met on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly last September, and Trump proceeded to invite el-Sisi to the White House a few days after the inauguration.
The Trump administration is committed to a foreign policy focused on American interests. America first. America will not do as before. Trump's serious consideration of moving the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem will cause a great deal of embarrassment to the Egyptian administration.
Now let's get some insight, of course, into those talks that are taking place. Daniel Winges now joins us in Washington. Daniel, of course, security, economy, two of the top topics at the top of the agenda at today's discussions. What have you seen so far? What have we heard so far about the talks taking place?
Well, what we've seen is apparently a very warm relationship between these two leaders, which by Donald Trump's account has been going well. The meeting has been effective in sort of meeting minds. Donald Trump did say that there were aspects that they don't agree with. Perhaps the Israeli-Palestine issue is one of those. I think what we are seeing is two men who feel comfortable in a situation where they have a transactional and not an ideological relationship. And I think that bodes well in terms of the aims and objectives of both leaders, particularly for Donald Trump in terms of securing lots of cooperation on targeting the Islamic State and other militants in the Middle East, having strategic interests in North Africa and the Middle East, and obviously on el-Sisi's side, there is a sense here in which this is a president who comes with a somewhat vulnerable economy and needs the continued support of the United States. And I think what we're probably going to see out of this, and it's not in the headlines, is an increase in the amount of US investments in Egypt, given the vulnerability and the possibility of further stability down the line for Egypt. You know, there are opportunities for US companies to diversify and gain a foothold in that region, and Sisi, I think, will welcome that given the current vulnerability of the Egyptian economy.
Now, Daniel, we know Trump has questioned U.S. past strategy on foreign aid, so Egypt could certainly be seeing a cutback in terms of aid economically and security-wise. What is your take on the limitations el-Sisi may face during those talks?
Well, on the military aid side, as you know, the Egyptian military aid budget of $1.3 billion US, which was cut back for a couple of years under Barack Obama because of the political turmoil in that country, nonetheless is the second largest budget or military aid budget for any country. Only Israel is higher. So, you know, given the fact that Donald Trump has said that aid is something that he's looking at cutting back on, I don't expect Egypt to have its budget slashed. It probably will maintain its budget at current levels. I think there is a sense that the Egyptians would like to see more, but you know, the Donald Trump administration also has to be a little bit cautious because there are many people in Congress who have a deep reservations about deepening ties with Egypt on the political level, given the level of political opposition figures in Egypt who are imprisoned and the sense in which the Egyptian administration has not yet calibrated that issue sufficiently for them. So Donald Trump has to be careful about being too close. That's why I don't expect to see a major increase in budgets, but at the same time, Donald Trump is a transactional president. He does want to see a substantial improvement in US-Egyptian ties. He sees a calibration there ahead. And so I think we're probably going to see the same level of funding. Perhaps the civilian aid will be eroded. But I think the big picture here is that Sisi can be expected to be treated with a great deal of respect from the Trump White House going forward. And that in itself is a major achievement, given how far back in the political arena the Obama administration put the Egyptians. Nonetheless, I think the military budget, the military relationship will still be at the forefront of this. And that's something that continued through the Obama administration. And I expect it to be significantly enhanced under a Trump administration looking to find allies in the region to fight ISIL.
Right. Well, many thanks, Daniel, for those insights. Daniel Winge is joining us there in Washington. Well, let's get some perspective from Egypt. Yasser Hakim now joins us in Cairo. Yasser, now we know security and economy, two topics top on the discussion list today. What kind of agreement will be a win for the country?
Well, for Egypt, let's talk about the economy first. Egypt wants to invest in the American companies in Egypt. The Egyptian president had met with the CEOs of Lockheed Martin and General Electric. He'll be meeting tonight with around 20 other companies that are studying investments in Egypt, and he would a deal to give the facilities to convince them to invest in Egypt would be a win situation for him. Also, to try to strike a free trade agreement with the US for Egyptian exports to the US. Egypt only exports around $2 billion per year, while the US exports to Egypt around $6 billion. So there's an imbalance in the trade between both countries, and Egypt wants to improve its own export numbers. If we talk about the political side, well, the Obama administration had blocked arms deals to Egypt and US military aid because of the fractured relationship between el-Sisi and Obama. And he hopes that with Trump, he would be able to strike a deal to receive equipment, arms, to help him in his war on terror, either inside in northern Sinai or in neighboring Libya, to help the crackdown on ISIL in particular.
Right. Well, many thanks, Yasser, for that update. Yasser Hakim joining us there in Cairo.